I'm Barbara Horwitz. I'm on the board. We appreciate your coming out tonight and also the people that are online with us tonight watching in. And as you know, this is a free university. Our programs are free and open to whoever wants to come. We do appreciate donations if you wish to make them. If you'd like to donate, there's a couple ways you can do it. When you register for a class, on the registration page, there's a little button you can push and make a donation. You can go to the Empower You USA website and make a donation that way. You can mail it to our physical address, which is also on the website. If you do get our programs in the mail, we have enclosed a little envelope for that purpose as well. And for those of you in the studio, as you know, we pass the little red buckets during the program where you can make a donation. Couple reminders. If you have a question this evening, for those in the studio, please raise your hand and wait for one of us to bring you a microphone. Because if you don't speak in the microphone, the people behind you can't hear, and people online can't hear you either. Online people can scroll to the bottom of the screen and enter their question on the Q&A button. If you had a chance on Tuesday, there was a great program online, and it was called The Power of Interpersonal Forgiveness by Dr. Van Loon. It was an excellent program. If you happen to miss it, or any other program that you just can't be present either online or in the studio for that date, you can get it later on, or you can rewatch a program later on. After 24 hours, the classes are posted to the website. So if you go to the website, look for the date and the title of the program, and as you scroll down, you'll see a button to click for you to view that class. I'm going to introduce to you our first speaker for the evening, Kim Georgeton. Kim was born and raised in Cincinnati, the daughter of a World War II Marine veteran. She graduated from the University of Cincinnati and has had a 25-year career in consulting. She lives with her husband, John, who's the owner of the Red Squirrel Restaurant, her daughter, and her 2 whippets. Kim is a strong constitutional Republican candidate and stands for traditional family, legal, and political values. She believes the government has overreached their position in recent years and will stand firmly to correct that imbalance. With a focus on the Constitution, Kim underscores the Declaration of Independence phrase that governments were instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Kim's overall goal as your representative is to uphold and protect the unalienable rights of we the people. And I now take pleasure in introducing you to Kim Georgeton.
Thank you so much. We're going to get kicked off real quick with a short video that I think is a little compilation of some of the things that I've been up to recently. some legal documents for everyone on the Board of Trustees. Okay. I'm just informing them of the unlawful mask policies that they have going on here. So, in the state of Ohio, every has to have a business license, and every business license, even all private businesses, are required to follow the state of Ohio Constitution. And the mask policy is actually violating multiple constitutional bills of rights for all of the students on campus. So, that are Thank you very much. So I'm Kim Georgeton. She gave me a great introduction, which was a lot of the information that I was about to share with you here today. But I am a constitutional conservative Republican. I am a parent, I am a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a fighter. And I am running for state representative because I feel that our state government has let us down in the past 2 years. I also feel that our state legislature has left our freedoms hanging in the balance when they could have done something about it and they chose not to. So real quick, my upbringing, I am the daughter of a World War II Marine veteran, and that is imprinted upon my soul. I'm the youngest of 7. I attended St. Aloysius Gonzaga for primary school, and I graduated from Oak Hills High School as well as the University of Cincinnati with a degree in Spanish Studies and International Business. This is a picture of the church that I attended growing up. It's called Old St. Mary's, and it is located down in Over the Rhine. Every Sunday morning at 9:30, we attended the Latin Mass. So of course, the Latin Mass is typically about an hour and a half long, if any of you have ever attended a Latin Mass. And I'll let you know, my mother was also in charge of the coffee hour after church. So going to church every Sunday was actually quite the family affair. It was either a half day or a full day event, depending upon how many people stayed at the coffee hour afterward. So quick funny story, one day, and this kind of ties into your stories that you're probably going to be talking about a little bit later, but one day we're driving to church from the west side along Central Parkway. And of course, we're running a little bit late for church. And I think my mom is going probably about 40 something in a 35 zone. Next thing you know, we see the lights behind us and the sirens, and she pulls over, and I see the cop getting out of the car. You know, he flips open his notebook, he starts walking up towards the door. My mom rolls down the window. This is back when you actually had to roll the crank on the car window. And she looks out and she says, "Officer, I'm running late for church. And if you give me a ticket, you're going to have to deal with our heavenly Lord upstairs." And he basically said, he chuckled, he flipped his notebook closed when they had notebooks, obviously. They don't even have those anymore either. He walked his way back to his car and said, "Have a blessed day." So that's just a little fun story about, you know, my growing up and the kinds of things that I've been exposed to as a youth. Next slide here. Whoops, oh, that skipped over. My career. Okay, we'll do this one next. So I've been in the business world for about 25 years. I've worked in commerce, merchandising, e-commerce, and marketing over the course of that time. I've worked for small, medium, and large companies, so I kind of know what it's like, you know, being in, you know, a various diverse set of businesses. I prefer to work in a small company. But what happens is every time I've moved with my career, it's been like that company got acquired by a medium-sized company. And then that medium-sized company got acquired by a large-sized company. And next thing you know, it's a global enterprise, you know, that you're working for. And so what we've seen, obviously, you know, and throughout my career, I always wondered, you know, we're going to have to pay the piper on this someday, right? Like all of the American headquarter-based companies are being gobbled up by these large enterprises. So, you know, I feel like what we're seeing happen now is we are actually paying the piper at this point in time. And I think we need to do something about it. So basically, I work for a company called Simplus. It's a consulting agency, and we do, like I said, we do implementations on software for small, medium, and large size enterprises. In my job, it is my responsibility to find solutions to problems. So I feel like going to the State House would be a great opportunity for me to do that just there. And I think I can bring a lot of great analytical and critical thinking skills to that role. In 2019, I was with a company called Trade Global. And that company had been acquired, like I had just kind of stepped you through multiple times. And when I was working there, I had a team of about 30 people on my team. And the company that had just acquired us was a Singaporean-based company called Singapore Post. And they decided that they wanted to divest of our organization. So they put us up on the market for sale. And my biggest concern was what's going to happen to my team. So I spent about 6 months negotiating and meeting with other companies to try and see if they would take my portion, my team, in whole so that we could all continue working together and work on the same clients that we had worked for. It took about 6 months, and I finally found a company that was willing to do so. And luckily, I was able to take and move my entire team. One day we resigned from that company that was going down the tubes, and we were rehired at a brand new company the next day, and that company is called Simplist, and that's the current company that I work for. Pictured in this picture is actually in college, I did the co-op program at the University of Cincinnati. And with that program, we had some really great opportunities to work for some interesting organizations. And this particular building is called Wilmer, Cutler, and Pickering. And it was the law firm for the White House at the time and when Clinton was in office. So it was a really cool experience being in college and getting a 6-month position to go work at a big time law firm, right? So one day we're up on one of the top floors. Oh, and my job there was I was basically the assistant to the assistant. I got to make copies for people. So that was basically my role. And being that this was a law firm that was assisting the White House, we had many very big time clients. And at the time, the Philip Morris cases were going on. And so that was one of the clients that I was assigned to. So if you can imagine, about half the size of this room was filled from floor to ceiling with file folders of evidence and cases and affidavits and information from all kinds of people who had been harmed by smoking cigarettes over the years. And one of the things that sort of was an aha moment for me at that time was looking through some of these files, because I had access to look through all of these files as I was pulling out the paperwork for all the attorneys I was making copies for. And it occurred to me that Philip Morris knew many years prior that smoking cigarettes was harmful. And it wasn't something that was necessarily published in the public until much later after people had complaints about it. It was also well aware that the Philip Morris company was including ingredients within their cigarettes that made them more addictive. So of course, that was going to make you buy them more often and smoke more. So seeing this at such a young age in college and making that sort of connection to big business and what we're seeing today sometimes with the narratives that are out there, the lies that are kind of perpetrated and that are then disclosed later on. This is obviously a playbook that many corporations have been using throughout their sort of existence. So further to this story, one day, the partners at the firm, every day he would go to court and he would be arguing in court, and he had a limo that would wait for him in front of the building. And so we all kind of knew like approximately what time the limo was there, and people would always look out and see what he was doing that day. He proceeds to get into a fist fight in the middle of the street. And then jumps in the limo takes off, and he's down the road. So we all kind of look at each other like, well, maybe the law field is not what I want to get into. And so that was kind of the day that I decided I needed to get involved in business and not in the legal field. But of course, as you'll see a little bit further, I have had to step into that field a little bit more recently here. This is my family. I married to John Georgeton. He owns the Red Squirrel. I think she mentioned that in my introduction. I have one daughter. She's 15, and she is a dancer. She's doing competitive dance actually right now. She's at dance, so unfortunately she couldn't be here. And then these are our two Whippets. They're awesome. They're like mini greyhounds. They're very sweet dogs. But she attended Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy until last year when the COVID protocols hit. And we had the masks, we had the testing, we had the temperature taking, and all of those things that were occurring in, every business and every school when COVID initially hit. So we made it through about half the year. And I started noticing she was having some mysterious health effects. And through a period of trial and error, as well as a couple of different doctors, we came to the conclusion that she could not wear a mask. So this was an Ohio State board certified doctor who wrote her a prescription for no mask. And when I presented that to her school, I had every expectation that they would allow her to continue to stay at school and finish her work. And the unfortunate thing was they said no. So she was forced to complete her school year remotely. So, that kind of led me down a path of what, I mentioned a little bit earlier, working at the law firm. Okay, now I gotta relearn the Constitution. I have to understand what steps are being taken and what nefarious activities are going on that are impacting my life, my daughter's life, right? So I spent a lot of time relearning the Constitution and then also learning how to write affidavits myself. And I think you saw in the little sizzle video a little bit earlier about some of the experiences that I've been having this past year with writing affidavits and trying to hold our elected and unelected officials accountable for violating their oaths to the Constitution. So real quick here, my politics. My politics has been already sort of an interesting controversy. Basically, this slide actually should be titled my lack of politics because I haven't been involved in politics my whole entire life. Back at the law firm example, I kind of closed my eyes to the law field and politics and kind of thought, okay, I'm moving on to business now. I've been pretty much asleep the past 20 years, not really paying much attention. And I've had my family, my husband, my career. And so what happened from there is, I just would vote in the general election in November. And then, maybe I didn't even vote in some years. So 2016, I didn't even vote in the general election. So it was for me a period of selecting a person, not necessarily focusing on a policy. So, and it was for me more about voting for a president, not necessarily, I had no idea who my local elected officials were. And I didn't even know that the state central committee existed or that I even lived in a district in particular. So all of this has been a learning experience for me over the course of the past couple of years. And it's been quite eye-opening. So in 2019, I started to recognize the variance in what the media was saying and what the actual truth was. And I started to really dig into a lot of the examples that were, popular in the media. So for one thing, it was the Russiagate story. And it was obvious to me right away that was absolutely not true, what was going on in the media. And at that time in November, I was traveling a lot on the West Coast, and they were really hammering that Russiagate story all day long, which was a little bit different than what I was observing here in Cincinnati. So even the locale and the stories that are happening you can tell they're pounded more in the media in certain locations. And you can understand, why certain people are led to believe certain things over time. So the point about this is that in 2020, for the very first time in my life, I decided to get involved and vote in a primary. And at that point, we knew President Trump was going to be our candidate for the Republican Party. And the only thing we didn't know was who was going to be, his competition on the other side. And the Rush Limbaugh strategy, where you can vote for sort of the front runner on the other party side to help sort of soften that competition as it would move forward into the presidential election in November. And so what I did is I ordered my absentee ballot that year because, again, we were in COVID and everything was shut down. And I decided I was going to make a vote against Biden. So that is what I did. And what that action did is actually placed me on the voter roll as a Democrat. So I didn't know that, and I learned that. And you're shaking your head. It probably happened to you at some point as well. Yeah, okay, yeah. So of course I had to do the research and understand myself that we are a bottoms up sort of registration, voter affiliation. state. And so anyway, that was a really interesting learning experience for me. And unfortunately, that's something that my opposition, who happens to be here tonight, that his team is planning on smearing me with and telling people that I'm some sort of a Democrat infiltrator. So unfortunately, that's not true. And I hope everyone will see through the lies on that. And I will continue to pray for my opposition so that that doesn't happen, that people will see through the deceptions. I do love America, and I want to see the tyranny that we saw these past 2 years be gone. Okay, next slide. So I'll tell you a little bit about where I stand on the issues. So first and foremost, no mandates. Again, kind of tying back to the initial video that we walked through. That was basically the Bethesda North Hospital was what that was. And the nurses there were protesting against the forced and coerced vaccines, and many of them have lost their jobs. And I did not think that was right. So what I did was I stood up and I started a Facebook page, and quickly got a whole bunch of people join that page. And I had been helping them with their religious exemptions and their responses to their businesses ever since that has happened. So I'm going to continue to fight. I did fight for them, and I will continue to fight against anything that seems to be unlawful and unconstitutional. All right, limited government. So again, I began to really tie everything together with relearning and reinforcing the Constitution there. And we will never forget all of the business closures, the masks, the forced vaccines, the kids' loss of their proms, the schools, the sports, all of those things. And what are those long-term implications as compared to what were the risks of the pandemic that we were in at the time? I think everyone knew that the pandemic was really impacting individuals in certain categories, either the very elderly or people who were already compromised physically and in their health. We knew from the beginning of the pandemic that it had a 99.8% survival rate. So, to roll out all of these other implications that happened through these mandates seemed completely unreal to me. And I could not make any logical sense of any of that. So what we saw there was that the federal government really has really gone out of balance. They are very much out of line and out of their jurisdiction in terms of what they're telling the rest of the public they should or should not be doing. Again, it just takes a moment to refocus back on the Constitution to understand that what we need to do is take care of ourselves, right? So that's a little bit about limited government, and I think we need to restore a lot of that power back to the states so the states can become sovereign again, and that we, the people, then will be driving those decisions up through our state representatives, which is one of the positions that I'm running for, and hopeful to be able to represent you in doing so. Okay, this is my husband's business. This is the Red Squirrel restaurant, and it's a family joint, and again, with the mandates, his business was shut down. So for us as a family, we had to figure out, oh gosh, what are we going to do? Like, how is he going to handle dealing with the customers that come in? Is he really going to make them wear a mask? What if the customer is getting into an argument with each other, in the restaurant? If someone complains, what's the process? What authority does the health department actually have? So all of these questions were things that we talked about at the dinner table. And then, again, kind of tying back to the Constitution, realizing that Governor DeWine had no authority to do that, actually. And it was very good that our legislature at that point did step in and put an end to that particular thing that ended, I think, on June 12th in 2020. But regardless, that was something that, again, he was out of jurisdiction on. And did you know also, in addition to his restaurant, over 4,000 restaurants were shut down at that time. And 80% of that workforce was sort of unemployed. And obviously, Ohio still has not recovered since, because we are 31st, I think, out of 50th in terms of our economic recovery in comparison to the other states. So we have a way to go, and Ohio is a great place to live. So we just need to find the right formula and get back to the basics. Lower taxes. Okay, so obviously here, we've seen on all the programs that the 4,000 page bills, the $3 and $4 trillion bills that are out there, the infrastructure bill, the Build Back Better bill, the budget, all of these things. How is it even possible for the Congress people to actually read through 3,000 pages in one night or 2 nights and have to make a decision on how they're going to vote on that bill? So what we're seeing here with these $3 and $4 trillion bills is a massive amount of inflation, and we're feeling it in our pocketbooks. We're feeling it at the gas stations, at the grocery stores, at my husband's restaurant, where we had to give raises to all of the employees, and then we had to raise our prices on the food. So we're feeling it in many areas, and we have to do something about this. We cannot leave this to our children and our grandchildren. And you know, Ronald Reagan once said, "It is not that the people are taxed too little, it is that the government spends too much." And I think that's where we are, and we need to fix it. School choice. This is a huge topic for me. Kind of, again, I guess one of the blessings of the shutdown was that parents had an opportunity to see what was going on in their kids' schools. So we saw critical race theory be rolled out. We saw comprehensive sexual education rolled out. We saw social emotional learning be rolled out. We know now that critical race theory is racist inherently in and of itself, and it's separating children by their physical characteristics. We know that comprehensive sexual education is allowing elementary children to experience being able to select or choose their sex. Are they a boy or a girl? This is not truth. There is nothing absolute about this. This, in my opinion, is child abuse. The social emotional learning, what we're seeing there is sort of an indoctrination about creating your decisions and creating your reality around your feelings rather than facts and data. So, you know, for example, I might punch little Johnny over here, and my teacher's going to come up to me and say, "Oh, Kim, Johnny must have really deserved to be punched. You know, how do you feel about that?" Instead of putting me in the corner for 5 minutes and making me, you know, repent for punching him, right? So what are we doing to our kids? We're creating this like very chaotic environment where social and emotional feelings are ruling rather than data and analytics, which again, just underscores the fact that we have no basis in reality in that scenario. So very concerned about what's going to happen to these kids 10 years from now, you know, when they're graduating from high school, you know, joining up the military, becoming our nurses. What is going to happen? Very, very concerned. So, you know, one way that we have to fight back on school choice is we have the backpack bill. So the backpack bill is a bill that will allow parents and students to choose whichever school they want their child to go to, and to take the funds and the money associated with that child and move it to perhaps a private school, or maybe there's going to be multiple community schools that will build up and schools that are associated with churches. And so you can then look at your child's skills and your child's development, learning development, and you can pick a school that will be more appropriate for your child based upon what you know as the parent. And that's exactly how it should be. So I'm very excited about that. And if that is in the House, I would vote on that. So not only are our kids being attacked in schools, our babies are being attacked. So I don't know how anyone can look at this image and say that it's okay to end this life. Life is the most fundamental of all. And in the Constitution, all humans deserve the right to life, liberty, and happiness. DeWine did sign the Born Alive Act, and that is one sort of bonus, but we need to take it further. And did you know that Planned Parenthood actually made $425 million in tax and their profit for the past 4 years, and they pay their CEOs up to $16 million. And as well, Planned Parenthood has spent over $600 million of our tax money on their business. So what we need to do right away is defund Planned Parenthood, and then we need to take it further. And we need to hope that more and more people become aware of this and that we have a revival for pro-life. How many people in here either got fact-checked or kicked off of Facebook or Twitter or any other social media? Wow, only one? Okay. You know, it's literally every single friend of mine has had this experience. So, well, not every single one, but most of the ones that are still talking to me, actually. Yeah, those are the ones. Yeah, so basically what we need to do here is we need legislation that is going to help to, protect our free speech online. So basically, the online social media sites right now, these are the town halls of today, right? So we no longer go to the town hall, ring the bell, and have everybody kind of yelling at each other with their muskets out. Like, we don't do that anymore, but we do it online. And this is what needs to be protected online so that everyone can have their freedom of speech and be able to say what they feel. And unfortunately, the conservative movement is the one that's feeling the pain from this. Again, in the little sizzle video, I don't know if you noticed Maddie DeGaray, which she's the young 12-year-old girl that was vaccine injured. So, we had this story when it happened. I know the parent, the mom, Steph DeGaray, and we shared the story with the news media, and they would not cover it. And still, when I'm in circles of individuals, I ask, have you heard of this child? And most people haven't even heard of it. So, of course, they want to cover it up. They did not want people to get any indication that it would be harmful for their children to take the vaccine, because they were pushing the vaccine so hard. But this is exactly the kind of information that parents need to know so that they can weigh the risks appropriately for their families. I'm a huge supporter of the Second Amendment. It shall not be infringed. It says it very clearly in black and white in the Constitution. What happened this week with the constitutional carry bill was somewhat shocking and very disappointing. The fact that they added an amendment to that bill that basically says, if anyone suspects you're carrying a gun, they can automatically do a search and seizure upon you. To me, that's not constitutional carry at all. That's constitutional search and seizure. So that's, I think, why you'll find some representatives voted unexpectedly. Like, you would think that, oh yes, every one of our Republican representatives should vote yes, because this bill is called constitutional carry. But I can tell you that I know some of the reps voted no on it because they were like, they added that amendment in there, and it makes it null and void. Actually, it's not actually constitutional carry. So it's actually dangerous because, any liberal police officer can come up to you and take your gun away at that point. This is essentially what can happen. So we need to make sure we get real constitutional carry passed in the House. Okay, defund our police was a very popular phrase that was used in the past couple of years. Absolutely heinous idea. In fact, in Ohio and in Cincinnati in particular, we actually did this once in 2001, and we saw an extreme spike in the crime here in the Cincinnati area. So for anyone to even be uttering these words right now is just absolutely uneducated. And we need to make sure that they know that not only did we already have this in our past experience to draw from factually, it just doesn't make sense. And you've seen it fail elsewhere. We need to refund and respect our first responders, and that includes our police, our firefighters, our EMTs, our nurses, all the medical professionals. And then, by the way, the ones who have lost their jobs, who's going to replace them? So my question in my mind is, who's replacing them? We've got like thousands and thousands of immigrants coming over from the border, right? Is it going to be them? Is the UN going to call in their quote unquote peacekeepers to come in and replace those positions? What impact is that going to have on America? We need to wake up. And then this last item here, one citizen, one vote, one ID. It's not really that hard, but unfortunately, some people are finding an issue with that. So we just absolutely need to make sure that, that this is adhered to and that our elections are safe and secure. So anyone who tells you the election was the most safe and secure election of all time needs to probably have their head examined at this point. That's pretty much it. What I ask of any of you here is, if you liked what I have to say today and you would like to be involved in my campaign, feel free to donate to me. Any dollar that I have today is $1 more than I had yesterday. And I'm certainly funding the majority of this campaign with my own funds. So anything would be appreciated. And then, of course, registering to vote. So the primary, and now that we all know how to vote in a primary, the primary registration date is on April 4th. And then if you would also vote for me on May 3rd, I would greatly appreciate your support. And last but not least, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. And our great President Ronald Reagan said that. Thank you very much.
Kim, thank you for being with us this evening.
You're welcome.
We wish you good luck in the primary. Enjoyed your talk tonight. Enjoyed getting to know more about you. Thanks for coming. Good evening. I'm Betty Overstreet, the Executive Director. Barb mentioned our past class on Tuesday and how you can go and watch classes at a later date. So if you live in district, or if you don't live in District 28, but you know somebody that does, refer them to our website to hear Kim if they don't have another chance to hear what she's about. I know she would appreciate that. Just want to go over our classes that are coming up. Next Tuesday, we will be out of the studio, so there will be no online class that day. We will be going to White Oak Gardens and learning what we're going to do with our gardens this summer. We do have a limited number that can go there. We have 40 signed up already. We really can't take more than 45. So if you're interested, you better get online and sign up. Then next Thursday, Dr. Frank is going to be here talking about the National Election Integrity Update. I don't know if you remember who Dr. Frank is. He's been with us twice in the past. We first had him on during COVID. He was the guy that started on Facebook, Follow the Data. And of course, on that class, he had all kinds of graphs and stuff where he was showing us all kinds of information, which was very interesting. We had him back again on climate change. He had so much to cover on climate change. He didn't even get finished with that. Could be next Thursday, he won't get finished with that either. I think there's gonna probably be a lot to cover. And if you don't know who he is, he's on sabbatical right now from a teaching job to be on Mike Lindell's team. He's traveling all over the country. I talked to him last night. He was in Nebraska. He's going to be in Missouri next week. I said, you are going to be here on Thursday, right? And he said, oh, yeah, I'm going to be back there then. So then on Tuesday, March 15th, Jim Renacci and Joe Knopp will be here. So if you have not met them, you'll want to meet them. Rebecca Heimlich also will be here, and she is, we'll be talking about changing the death penalty. So I think that will be real interesting. I think there's a lot of controversy on that. Maybe she'll be able to straighten all of us out on it. We do have a couple of door prizes to give away. So here in the studio, if you'll get your tickets out, and I'm going to ask our guests to choose one. Last three numbers, 047. Oh, 047. It is a nobody else is coming forward, so I'm sure you must be right. That's what it looks like. $25 gift card to White Oak Gardens. Hope you enjoy it. For our online audience, we have Do What You Said You Would Do by Jim Jordan. And the winner of this book is going to be Larry T. And Larry, we will be sending that out to you in the mail. Next, our speaker tonight is going to take questions all during his presentation. So if you have a question, raise your hand. Put your questions in online at the Q&A button. Ray Hoskins is a veteran of the United States Air Force, where he served as a special operations pararescueman. He is passionate about issues that affect not only veterans, but also those who are currently serving our country. As the Director of Veterans Education, he works closely with Concerned Veterans for America, producing and delivering content around a myriad of subjects, including foreign policy, VA healthcare, and ending endless wars. He has been married to his wife and best friend, Jenny, for 24 years. They have 5 boys. Wow, 5 boys. I would think keep you busy. Ranging in age from 14 to 28. His oldest son, Vince, is proudly serving in the United States Army. His next son, Mason, is an engineer. His third son, Hayden, is studying to become an engineer. His fourth son, Peyton, is currently in high school, and his youngest son, Damon, is also in high school. He also has 2 daughter-in-laws and 4 grandchildren. Ray, we welcome you.
Thank you. They say a gentleman doesn't wear his hat indoors. Kim told a great story. The story about her mom. How many of you remember hearing the story about her mom? Okay. I've met you before. Where have I met you before? Have we met before?
We have met.
We've met before.
We taught a class for American Prosperity about 4 years ago.
Okay, that's where it is. So I'm going to pick on you tonight since we're old friends. Tell me your name again.
Ken.
Ken. Ken, I want you to do your best to tell Kim's story about her mom.
Kim was the youngest of 7 children.
Okay?
And they were raised.
Hold on. I need to get you a microphone. I'm sorry. Ken is going to tell the story about her mom.
Kim was grew up in West Side. Her father had 7 children, and they were raised down at the old St. Mary's in over the Rhine, which is a big commitment to get down there for Mass every Sunday, especially if you have 7 children in tow. She was raised in a parochial school, grades 1 through 8, and then she graduated from Oak Hills High School. And her mother was very persuasive, especially when it came to dealing with the law. She invoked divine inspiration, said, "This is going to be on you, buddy. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to answer to Almighty God," which put the fear of God in him. And he was a very emotionally intelligent police officer. So did that cover it pretty well?
The story was fantastic because how many of you could tell in your mind when she was telling that story and the police officer pulled them over, she did this. And what's that doing in your mind? That's telling you that there's lights on behind her, right? So you're all picturing this. And then you're all picturing this police officer getting out of the car with his notebook, walking up, and you're seeing her mom actually call him to task. And I don't know if you felt what that police officer was feeling at that moment when her mom said, this is between you and God if I get there late. But that's a great story. What is it that makes that a great story? And as I go along tonight, please feel free to interact with me and talk to me. It's way more fun than if I'm just standing here being an entertainer. So what was it that made it such a good story? You said we can all relate. Okay. So the audience member said we can all relate to it. Tell me more. What do you mean by that?
Most of us grew up with mothers or fathers that were determined to get us where we needed to go when we needed to go there.
Okay.
And that was Kim's mom going to church
Okay.
on Sundays. And it was a very practical thing for her to say to that police officer. She knew she was in the wrong. At the same time, she basically appealed to him to let it slide so that she could get to church.
And his sense of justice and mercy, right?
Yeah, and there may have been a little bit of fear, but at the same time, it's something we can all relate to. I mean, we've probably all been in a position where our parents have been trying to get us someplace, they've been running late, maybe not pulled over, but we can relate to that need for the parents to do that.
Very good. Being the father of 5 boys, I know trying to get them out of church get them to church on time is like herding cats. And so I love what you said, that we were able to relate to it. She told the story in a way that we could picture it, we could visualize it, we could feel it. How many of you have ever been pulled over? That's pretty unanimous. You've never been pulled over? Man, I'm the guy that never gets out of the ticket. I'm as nice as you can possibly be. Yes, sir. No, sir. Hey, great tie you got on there today, but I never get out of a ticket. So, but what she did was she told the story in a way that we could relate, we could see it, we could visualize it, we could feel it. And those are the elements of a good story. Why do we like stories? Why do we like a good story? What's it do for us? She says that we can remember it. Yeah. If it's memorable, if it's good enough, it's going to be memorable. I may not remember anything else, but I'm going to remember what your mom said to that police officer, because it was very, very emotional. It made us laugh. Everybody in the room laughed. If you can make everybody in a room laugh, you've got them. You've got them. And what you want to do is you want to frame your stories in such a way that it's going to impact people's emotions. Now, too often, we get off on tangents. We like stories because they engage us. They bring us in. We like them because they entertain us. Every little kid loves a good story. When my boys were younger, I used to, when it was bedtime, occasionally I would start a story. And then I would throw it to Peyton, and he would take the story from there. And then I would throw it to Damon and let him tell the story from there. Then I would throw it over to Hayden and let him take the story. And it just kind of built on it. And at the end, if the story was good enough, they would all be able to recount the story. Let's try it. Let's have some fun. All right. I'm going to start a story, and I'm going to give the mic to somebody else. And you're going to add to the story. I want you to make it as ridiculous, funny, sad, crazy, emotional. Give me something that makes it interesting. Okay? Give me something that makes it interesting. So, one day, Sally was home alone, and the doorbell rings. She goes to the door, and there is a 9-foot man at the front door. The man is holding a pickle.
Sally was feeling a little bit hungry, so she asked the man if she could have the pickle so she could eat it. It's kind of boring, but okay.
I know you. We've met before, haven't we? No?
Although Sally was home alone, her neighbors had a watch on her, and they believed in the Second Amendment. Approached the tall stranger with the pickle, and what did you say? Approached the tall man.
And asked him if he had any ice cream. And because they were wanting to have a party next door, and if he would come over to join them to eat ice cream and bring Sally.
And that pickle was going to be used to make ice cream, but it was one of those extremely hot pickles.
Hot pickles to make ice cream. Okay.
However, pickles or no pickles, because it was such a stormy night and the gentleman was getting really drenched because he was so tall, that she felt she had to invite him in, even though he had to bend over all the period of time he was in there.
But the important thing was that Sally asked him, do you have a corned beef sandwich to go with this dill pickle?
The 9-foot stranger was about to answer the question when in that moment, Sally swore she could smell smoke, turned around and saw clouds of smoke billowing from her kitchen. All of a sudden she remembered,
she remembered she had a cake in the oven and she thought, oh, I could have taken that next door to my neighbors to have cake and ice cream and a pickle. And we all know ice cream and pickles go good together when you're pregnant.
Way to wrap it up. All right. Thank you, everybody. Now, let's see if he was paying attention. Let's start at the beginning, and I want you to tell me as much of the story as you remember.
where are we today?
Oh, give me that.
Can't remember.
Oh, good Lord.
Tell me as much as you remember.
Oh, man. Okay, Sally opens the door to a 9-foot man holding a pickle. And she asks him if she can have the pickle because she's hungry. And then her neighbors who believe in defending their ice cream come over to ask him if what he's doing there and if he can bring his pickle over to their house to have pickles and ice cream because she is pregnant. And then something happened in between there. And then there was smoke coming out of Sally's kitchen. And she realized she had been baking a cake. And she was sad she didn't take the cake over to the pickles and ice cream party.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Nice job, everybody. Why was everybody able to remember the story? Because as we were telling it, you could visualize it, you could picture it every step of the way. Some of you could have told more of the details. Some of you probably could have retold the entire story almost verbatim because you kind of got involved in the story. What we need to do when we're telling stories, it's important that we connect with the listener. Anytime I'm telling a story, anytime you're telling a story, what happens is our brains will couple. And what that means is we have different wavelengths of our brains. And so if I'm telling a story and you're listening to a story, eventually, slowly, as I get into the story, our brains actually start to have the same wavelengths. And what happens is your brain, your body will release what is called oxytocin. It's called the love molecule. And what that does is it makes people like you. How many of you want to be liked? Tell good stories. You want to be liked? Tell good stories. Now, do they always have to be funny? No, they don't have to be funny. It can be an emotional story. It can be a sad story. It can be a story that'll make you cry. It can be a story about a young girl who is injured in a vaccine trial. You could talk about their parents. How did that impact their parents, her parents? How did that impact her? How did that change her life? How did that change the life of her siblings? What are her struggles now? So many different ways that we can go when we talk about stories. And the beauty of it is it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. What we really want to do when we're talking about stories is we want to kind of frame it. Now, we can frame it a lot of different ways. There's so many different ways to frame it, but let me give you just one simple way to do it. It's called the public narrative. It's the story of self, the story of us, and the story of now. And what that means is I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to cover me, us, and why it's important. So let me tell you a story. Vince came from a inner city school. His mom was in prison. She was serving 13 years for armed robbery that she committed while he was in the back seat of the car. His father died when he was 2 years old. And Vince had been through 11 different foster homes. And one day, first day of school, Vince's teacher was in class, and Vince walked in the room. He sat down, and this is a new school for Vince because Vince is at another new foster home. He walks in the classroom, he sits down, and he just does this. And the kids in the room are laughing at him. So Vince was raised in a very poor area, a very poor neighborhood. He's an African-American kid. And now he's in a suburban white school, predominantly white school. He is out of his element. Tell him I'm busy. He's out of his element. And so what Vince does, Vince's teacher falls in love with him instantly. He is just drawn to this kid for some reason. And so he starts to mentor the kid. He starts to mentor him. He takes him under his wing. Vince actually, he's living in a home with a single mom and two other kids that are about the same age as Vince. But Vince is sleeping on the couch. The other kids get the beds. So he's not in a great situation. And this goes on for a year. He starts to really grow a relationship with his teacher. And his teacher had a summertime business as a window cleaner because he was making so much money as a teacher. So he had the summertime business. And one day, Vince was about to turn 18. He was going to be a senior in high school. You guys know what happens to those kids when they turn 18, right? Not good things, right? So Vince's teacher says to him, Vince, you need to come stay with me. And Vince says, why? Why do I need to come stay with you? He said, because there are some things about being a man that you need to learn, and you're never going to learn them where you are. He said, like what? Like what kind of things? Because Vince has a chip on his shoulder. And his teacher said, I can't tell you right now, but you'll know them when you learn them. 1 week later, Vince was living with his teacher, with his former teacher. I'm proud to tell you that my son Vince finished high school, went into the military, and he is proudly serving his country. Right now, he's deployed to Poland. He has a wife and 4 kids. And my son Vince will tell you today that if it wasn't for Dad, he'd be in prison. Now, If people like you and me would just mentor more kids like that, we could really make a change in this world. It's important that we affect the next generation. It's important that we all work together, not yesterday, not 10 years from now. It's important that we get together right now and mentor kids like that and change their lives. That's the story of self, story of us, and story of now. I told you about Vince. I gave you a solution. I told you how I explained to you how you can be involved as well, that it's important for you guys. And I gave it some urgency. I said, right now, it's important that we do it now. But anytime we have the story of self, we have three elements in there: a challenge, and a choice, and an outcome. So let's talk about my story. Let's talk about my story. What was the challenge in my story of Vince? Somebody tell me what was the challenge in my story with Vince? Say it again.
He had no faith in anyone anymore. He had given up.
He had given up. Matter of fact, it took me 2 years to get the victim mentality out of Vince. It took me 2 years to train him and teach him that the world was not out to get him. So there was a point where there was a choice. There was a choice. What was the choice in that story?
Whether you were going to put the effort in.
That's one of the choices. Tell me more.
He had to trust that you weren't going to let him down.
He had to make a choice. His choice was to come and stay with me. It wasn't a natural choice for him. It wasn't a natural option for me to do that for him either. Because to be honest with you, for the first 2.5 months while he lived with me, I never left my wallet out. It took some gaining trust on both sides. What was the outcome? What was the outcome?
You had a mid outcome of him coming to live with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then a final, current outcome, shall we say, of him growing into a useful member of society. Absolutely.
And I am so very proud of my son, Vince. He's the best dad I've ever seen. He is so good with his 4 kids. The guy has the patience of Job. He didn't get that from me. I do not have Job's patience, but he does. But he said to me several times, Dad, I wouldn't even know what a family looked like until I came to live with you. I didn't know what a husband did. I didn't know how a husband treated his wife. I didn't know how a husband and wife interacted. I didn't know what a dad did because I never had one. So it's important when we're trying to influence legislators. I can stand up here all day long and tell you that 19.7 million appointments were canceled by the VA during COVID. Or I can tell you a story about how I had 3 appointments canceled by the VA. Which one's going to affect which one makes you more personal to it? 19.7 million or my personal 3 appointments? Yes. You want to get into the stories and make them personal. You want to make them so compelling that there's no way to ignore you. Standing up and shouting facts and figures. Over the last 2 years, you've seen it on Facebook. You've seen it all over the media. people standing up in front of rooms, yelling and screaming at elected officials. How many of you have ever been yelled and screamed at? Put them up high. Now, I want you to keep your hand up. No, put them up. Come on. Keep your hand up if after that yelling and screaming, you thought, dang, I must be wrong. I'm going to do exactly what they said. Only two. Couple of you. Typically, when people are yelling and screaming at us, it raises a barrier, it builds a wall. I've got some, my family's from Kentucky. Okay? And so I've got that self-righteous indignation that raises up every once in a while. And if you rise up and you start yelling at me, you ain't gonna talk to me like that. And so what it does is it builds barriers. What we want to do when we're telling stories is we want to break down barriers. We want to make sure that the politician or the official that you're looking to influence is going to listen to you. The best way to get them to listen to you is to tell them how it is impacting you personally. Maybe not you personally, maybe it's your neighbor. Maybe you're going to a local committee meeting, local city council. And you want them to make a decision. Well, maybe your neighbor can't be there, but your neighbor has a daughter that's handicapped or whatever, and you need to they can't make it to the meeting, but you need to share the story. Or maybe they're just bashful. Or maybe they just don't care enough. We have a lot of people in our society that just don't care enough to go out and engage with their officials. You got to tell the stories. Tell them in a compelling way. Make them visual. Use words that tug on people's hearts. Use words and visuals that make people see it in their minds. We've all had a good story told to us. So how do you get to your legislator? How do you get there? I was on the radio just the other morning. The first question the guy asked me, how do we get to these people? Now, Kim, let me ask you a question. When you get elected, do you have all the answers?
No.
Oh, crap. Don't want to answer. Do you want people to just talk bad about you?
No, but I'm sure they will.
Would you prefer that people just talk bad about you or come and talk to you?
I would love for people to talk to me, and I would plan to have like monthly, town hall meetings, for
Okay.
example, in the district, so that I can hear directly from them.
If you were an elected official, would you want people to engage you, or would you want people to ignore you?
Definitely engage me,
Engage with you. Why?
because it's not any fun to be ignored.
Okay, it's not any fun to be ignored. If you were elected official, would if somebody had a solution and you didn't see it, would you want them to share it with you?
Yes.
Yes. They don't have all the answers. The wise man said, be careful about getting too close to your heroes, because then they become human. We're all humans. We're all humans. We all like to hear that good story. None of us have all the answers. Your elected officials, they need your help just as much as you need their help. They don't have everything. They don't know everything. Trust me, they don't know everything. Do they know anything? From the peanut gallery. Yes, they do know something occasionally, But a lot of times what they do know comes from people like you that are helping them out. Now there are ways to get to them. Number one way, there's this thing called a telephone. Now, I'm not saying going on social media and blasting them. I'm saying call their office and say, hey, I'd like to talk to so-and-so. Can I set up a meeting? You'd be surprised. You can get meetings with these folks. You really can. They want to have the meetings. They want to have the meetings because they don't know everything that's going on out there. I said the other day, if one person calls their office, it's just one person. But if 100 people call their office, there's something going on that they want. Wait, what am I missing? I need to. This is my chief of staff. Hey, you need to find out what's going on. I want to talk to these people. Get some of them in here. It is important that when we get in there and we talk to them, that we don't just go in with guns blazing. You don't do anything but build walls and barriers when you go in with guns blazing. Sometimes you have to go in and you have to be willing. I know this is crazy talk. You got to be willing to listen. Is it possible that you don't know everything? It is possible that maybe there's something going on that you don't know about. Maybe they're voting this way or leaning this direction because of some external forces that you are unaware of. You got to be willing to listen. You got to be willing to engage. The most important thing, and I can't express this enough, you just got to be nice. You got to be nice to people. I'm way more open to people that are nice to me than people that are not nice to me. Aren't you? So we have to be willing to listen, engage, make the phone call, and just listen and talk. Have a conversation. Ask them questions. And here's one of my favorite things. My pastor tells me this. He says, don't come to me with a problem unless you also bring me a solution. Don't come to me with a problem unless you also come to me with a solution. Actually, he's a little tougher than that. He says, you can come to me with 3 solutions so he can pick the one that he likes the best. But that makes sense. Come with an agenda, come prepared, have your ducks in a row, have a good story ready, be willing to listen and engage. Come with a solution. Don't just come with a problem, come with a solution. Another part that you need to really focus on is building a relationship with the legislator. If you want to be able to connect with them more easily, build a relationship. How can I do that? Well, first of all, I really want to build a relationship with their staff. You want to build almost a first name basis relationship with their staff. Do you do that by calling up and being nasty on the phone to the staff person? No. You call up and say, oh, hey, Johnny, I am so glad to talk to you. My day is better just by hearing your voice, kind of thing. Tell them, compliment them. If they do something for it, if they get you an appointment, thank them. Be grateful, be gracious. Have some gratitude. So you want to build a relationship. How do I do that with a politician? Well, I can support them. I can support them morally. I can support them morally. Hey, John, I know that was a tough vote. And I know a lot, I know half of your constituents are upset with you, but I want to tell you that I've got your back. If I hear anybody talking badly about you publicly, I will support you. Thank you for making the right choice at the right time for the right reason. I can also support them I can support them publicly. I can go out on social media and I can thank them. I can sing their praises from the hilltops on social media. They get enough negativity. Say something nice about them, tag them in there, and you're going to be in front of the line next time they need somebody to talk to. And again, sometimes another way to support them and build that relationship is just simply by offering them information. They have limited staff. They have limited time. Somebody mentioned 2,000-page bills. I don't know about y'all, but I don't read that quick, especially in one night. So maybe there's something in there that you've noticed that they don't know about. Bring that to their attention. Because again, they can't get through all of that at one time. If you've ever tried to read one of those bills, 10 pages would take me 2 hours, let alone 2,000 pages. Make sure you send the right messenger to get your message to that legislator. If there's a hothead in your group, they're not the right person. They're not the right person. Between me and my wife is a saint. She is the nicest human being I've ever met. I don't know why she picked me. But if I really wanted to get a point across, sometimes I have a tendency to be a little hot under the collar. It would be better for me to send somebody like her in because she's got a calm demeanor and she's gorgeous. And so you got to send the right person. Don't send the person that is going to just go in with both guns blazing. Send the right person to get your message to this legislator or this elected official. And finally, make sure I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Make sure when you go into that room to have that meeting, have a specific ask. Be specific with what you want to have happen. I was having a problem with one of the airlines. I do a lot of flying. And I had a nightmare scenario. It would take me an hour just to go through the nightmare scenario with you. But the next day, I called up their customer service. And they totally threw me off my game because I was mad. I was trying to be nice, but if you'd give me a nail, I would have bit it in two. I called up the next day, they're nice as pie. And once I got through with everything, they said, "What would you like us to do?" Wait, what? You want me to tell you? Well, don't you have like a spreadsheet that tells you how many free miles I should get for this misery that you put me through yesterday? No. They wanted me to tell them what I wanted to do. I had no idea. They probably would have given me more than I asked for. I was so taken aback that I had the option of telling them what to do that they probably got off easy. I said, give me 10,000 miles. They're like, done. I'm like, dang it, I should have asked for more. God. So the moral of the story is when you want to impact a legislator, an elected official, tell a good story, make it personal, make it emotional, go in, be nice, have a solution, and make sure that you also are willing to listen and be part of the solution and not just the problem. What can I clarify? What can I clarify for you? If there's somebody online with questions, please let me know, but what are your thoughts? Comments? Complaints? All complaints go to Betty. All right, thank you for your time. I think Matt. Up here.
colleagues will help me
This
out
will
here.
work.
Awesome. If my colleagues will help me out here, pass these cards out. I used to live right down the road across from Jungle Gyms. Gosh, 15 years ago or so. And if I had access to the programming of Empower You back then, and I knew that my colleagues at Americans for Prosperity were around, I would have jumped at the opportunity to join in. These cards on the backside, if you have your smartphones out, go ahead and pull them out and scan that first code. It's going to take you to a Facebook group of your community, folks that are around you here in Southwestern Ohio, who are going to join with us at Americans for Prosperity to help make things better. Coming up in April.
April 6th.
April 6th, right here.
Right here.
Correct. Dinner at 6:30. Program will start at 7, but the Grassroots Leadership Academy, Ray, are you coming that night, or is that?
I will be here for that one.
Ray's going to kick it off, which is going to be awesome. He's going to help teach you some of the skills that you're going to need to really further the conversation from tonight. How do you engage in things? How do you take an issue and build a community that will help you? That's what Grassroots Leadership Academy is all about, is empowering you to take the next steps.
What we gave you tonight is just a small snippet of what we will cover over those 6 weeks.
So the second thing to scan there, we'll take you to the signups for the Grassroots Leadership Academy starting on the 6th of April. And then lastly, if you can't scan those, or if you have any problems getting to those, there's contact information for Jeremy Irwin. He's going to be your local guy for Americans for Prosperity. He is actually moving here this week from Virginia. So you have an opportunity to reach out to him if you have any questions. If you need to find out how to get a hold of a legislator, he'll help you out. If you are experiencing a problem that government's in the way and you want to affect some change, Jeremy's going to help you deal with all of that. So his contact information is number 3. You can call him, you can email him, you can send him smoke signals. He'll pick that up too, I think. With that, if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to take them. Ray, any questions for Ray? We'll be around. And Ezra is our director of coalitions. He's in the back. He'll answer questions. You got a brain trust tonight from AFP. We're ready, willing, and able to answer any questions you have. With that, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. That was a great class. I think next week when we get together on Thursday, everybody here should come up and give us an idea how to approach a legislator. What do you think about that? All I got to say is the next time I answer my door, I hope there's not a 9-foot guy with a pickle there, because I'm going to be upset then. Thanks for coming tonight. Be safe going home. And thank you, Ray. It was very good.